RBL Weekly back on the air. Pat Barker, Roast Battle League Commissioner, joined by a special guest co-host this week, the legend Paige Wesley. Sarah Keller, after being out for 2 weeks and then coming back, is out for another 2 weeks.
She's busy. She stays booked.
Has a way busier and more interesting life than me. That's why I get to be here every week. She's always out doing stuff. So Sarah will be back soon. In the meantime, the rotating door of amazing co-hosts continues. How you doing?
Good. Yeah.
Thank you for doing this.
Of course. It was a longer drive than I anticipated because I came from my new house and I don't know where anything is in relation to the new place.
I love the subtle flex.
30
seconds into the podcast. Oh, my new house.
I'm a landowner.
It's very inconvenient owning property in Los Angeles, which is something that less than 1% of the people will ever get to do. And if we're talking comedians, less than 1% of the less 1%. Than 1%. Yeah. The fact that you, through comedy and comedy adjacent money, have managed to buy a house.
I know, the dream.
The most impressive thing anyone around me has ever
That's
done.
why I want to go to my 20-year reunion. Like, I was voted most likely to become famous. I don't care. I just care that I can show up and be like, I own a house. Like, what? We have 3 bedrooms.
See, now, growing up in a small town in New Jersey, everyone I went to school with owns a house, but it has to be in New Jersey. See, so I still feel like I won.
I grew up in the Bay Area, which is more expensive than here. Right. Like the only thing that would be more of a flex than owning property in Los Angeles is owning property back home. So
give it time. It'll happen. But I appreciate you coming and doing this. Of course, you are going to be part of our ragtag traveling group of all-stars that's heading over to Tokyo.
So excited. I'm very, very excited for Tokyo.
You've battled all over the place, and we talk about this all the time. Every time I talk to you, the topic is like, I have to go to Chicago and beat their champ. I have to go to Denver and beat their champ. I have to go to Austin. And you just want to travel the globe.
Yes.
And not to get just like free trips and see places.
No.
I want to take on the best they have to offer while I'm there.
Yeah. Make it a good trip. Make it a fun trip. I just got back from San Francisco, losing to their champ.
Yep, that was a great battle we watched a couple weeks ago. We've been really blessed the last few weeks to have 2 or 3 top line battles that are 9 out of 10, 9.5, maybe even a 10 out of 10. This week, a little bit different.
Okay.
I watched, because I watch all the battles back to back, and I try to give them a score. And there was a lot of like 6.5, 7 kind of neighborhoods. A lot of really solid stuff. And like one of those weeks where we might get to the end and you might be like, I thought the number 5 battle was better than the number 1. And I'll
where
be
it's
like,
all kind of just a sea of maybes. Well, that's the thing, too. People have to realize the league is still young. And so a lot of these people, like, even in talking to the people that we're going to be battling in Japan, like, some of them have battled for 3 years, and they're the veterans. And they're like, how long have you been battling? And I was like 6 or 7 years. Like, I feel like an asshole now. Like, this is, the not fair. But, yeah. So a lot of people are still getting there.
I really feel like Babe Ruth. Like, when I started, we didn't even have gloves. Nobody wore helmets.
I broke 14 fingers. You have no idea.
Yeah, we didn't let colored people battle.
Well, that's why you were winning.
No, those were the only battles I could win early on. What are you talking about? Battling white guys is way harder than battling people of color. You get to use lazy racism.
That's true. That is
true. One of my favorite things. Speaking of which, I will be taking on Troy Lewis, who is a person of color in Tokyo. And I don't know how that works. I've been thinking about that. I'm like, can I do I do black stereotypes? Do I do Japanese stereotypes? What do I
mean, that's a good question. Because I've actually battled digitally, like over Zoom with Tokyo previously, and every time I get assigned a British person. So I go with imperialism jokes, personally. That's my favorite part.
It's so funny how the one consistent in the Tokyo roast scene is that nobody's Japanese.
Nobody's Japanese. It's like Los Angeles, where no one's from Los Angeles.
Right. Exactly. All right, well, let's jump right into it this week. We had, as I alluded to, an interesting week choosing the battles, and it was a much more successful week for one division than the other, U.S. versus international. I'm not going to spoil it. You'll see as we go. One of the divisions sent me a bunch of really consistently solid battles, and one of them did not. And still to be determined on which one. So we'll start with the number 5 battle this week. This comes to us from Denver. We haven't seen Denver in a couple weeks. This one I want to get your perspective on, not only as a battler, but also as an expert on video
Oh, yes.
Because Denver, they have this fun venue where like the crowd is like really into it and boisterous. I think it's called the Rock Pile. It's like a bar.
Okay.
And they've been filming from the back of the room, and they sent me battles a couple weeks ago, and I was like, dude, the crowd is great. Everything's great. I just can't see the battlers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're doing a lot of looks like jokes, and I can't see it. I was like, so can you like get a closer angle? And then their editor, I don't know if he like took acid or something, but they came back and they were like, he had all these crazy ideas. So they tried this. There's like a split screen thing. There's cuts. It's the Stanley Kubrick roast battle cut, I guess. But it's also a really entertaining, super fun battle with a lot of really good moments. This comes to us from Denver. Number 5 battle this week. This is Evan Joe versus Manny Valdez. Let's check it out.
Wow. Oh my God. You guys, believe it or not, I actually had some trouble coming up with roasts for Manny. And I think it's because I still don't know if he's an actual person or just 1,000 lizards in a Rob Schneider costume.
Thank you for taking the time to be here. I know you've been extra busy asking people 3 riddles before they enter the back of the Spencer's.
Wow, I literally said before this started, no riddles and Spencer's jokes, but whatever. I had to cross my boundaries like that.
I know you've been especially swamped since you got a second job being the genie that comes out when you rub a dirty water bed.
You son of a bitch. Oh my goodness. Manny has actually been the owner of multiple lizards. And while that seems like a big responsibility, it's actually pretty easy to take care of a pet when you share an identical lifestyle and diet. Go suck a cricket dick, lizard lips!
If you want to see my favorite lizard that I've owned, it's actually on stage right now. Wait till you see his trick where he tells you how you can save 15% or more on car insurance. Look at this guy. Evan has quite the ego. If he ever wears eyeshadow, you're going to see it on his Instagram. And if he ever wears lipstick, he's going to see that on his own dick.
It took me a long time to learn how to do that, okay? Manny, you malnourished Mexican mole rats. The only thing about you that isn't whitewashed are your teeth.
Barely seems like a rag right now. That doesn't mean much coming from the only Denver comic that always carries a dab pen, Klonopin, and an EpiPen.
Wow. I'm allergic to peanuts.
Evan, you broken beak, big bird looking bitch.
Say that!
You look like you wear socks when you're in sandals, but not a condom when you're inside a teenager. You look like you never finished high school, so you only finished in high schoolers.
Clap your fucking hands for that goddamn holy shit.
All right. We got Manny going first in overtime. Wide right. We're going to one more joke. Put some energy back in the room, right? I'm sorry. Evan Joe's dad used to beat him, which I'm sure you can tell if you've ever seen his teeth. But my dad also left, but Evan's dad wishes he missed him a little bit more.
Oof, my dad's actually here tonight, you guys. Man, you look like you suck used tampons for nutrients. You look like you grow a new seashell tooth every time your girlfriend writes a better joke than you.
So usually when we watch these battles, I try to come up with like one thing where it's like we should probably discuss this one thing.
We have many things to discuss.
It's everything, everywhere, all at once. That
Yes.
battle, absolute chaos.
Yes.
I mean, look, Evan Joe's character enough would be. We could do 10 minutes on that.
Yes, so much.
The video choices, the audio choices, or lack thereof.
Sure.
There's a lot. I mean, start, I guess, wherever you want.
Oh man, I was gonna give it to Kenny G Fuel until the socks and the sandals joke. That was amazing.
Incredible.
Let's start with the video, okay? Because
Okay.
it gave me flashbacks to during pandemic when we had virtual battles, but you had to stand 6 feet apart still, and so there were 2 cameras. And a friend of the show, Digits, battled, and Digits has a habit of pacing. That is part of his character, and on stage, it's, I would say, necessary. It is part of the Digits experience. But in the virtual battle, he kept pacing from one camera to the other, and it is one of my favorite virtual battles because of that. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But in this battle, because the split screen, first of all, is diagonal, strange choice.
Very bizarre.
But because of that, you actually see Evan's arm through the other screen a lot of the time, but also in the frame, you can't see him gesturing, which I think robs a little bit of his delivery because we don't really see his whole body delivering the joke. So I would really prefer to see both. And as you mentioned, in overtime, we kind of got the framing that we needed where they just needed to pull back a little bit and pull whatever they're using to pull their audio slightly back too.
Well, they still went to a split screen, but it was pointed out off camera when we were watching the battle. When the host came up on stage at the end of regulation, they just went to a regular shot, and it's like, oh, that feels like you could just do that.
You could just do that.
You could
'cause
pull
they're
back
not-
just a little bit. They went from back of the room to as close as humanly possible, and it's like, if you just pull back now 10%, because I love the fact that you could see the reactions from both the people.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
could, when he's making jokes about, he looks like this or he looks like that, you can look at the other person and fact check it and be like, they do look like that.
He does look like he has owned many lizards. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yes.
He does look like he fucks teenagers. Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
All
of
checks
course.
out.
All of it.
So I
Yes.
love the fact that you could see the reactions. I think maybe they overthought it a little bit with the diagonal split screen. And then, when the host comes on stage, you're like, oh, they're so much closer.
They're right there.
Like you would think that they're on opposite sides of the bar, necessitated,
It took half the battle for me to realize they weren't on other sides of the bar. And the only reason was because I started to see his arm in the split screen. And I was like, he's like a foot away.
Yeah, I know.
Why did we split this screen?
Very fun.
But yeah, the split screen, and then sound wise, and this is just a thing for comedy videos in general.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you want to get good videos, try to get the sound from the board that's coming directly from the mics. And if you're going to get audience sound, pull it back from the stage and use something that can get ambient sound and then combine the 2 files.
Right. Because the first couple jokes, it felt like the crowd was a little bit loud, which anytime we've all done comedy in bars,
Yes.
that's a realistic thing. That's
Yeah.
part of it. And it's testament to the joke writing that they really won that crowd over. But they also have those, I don't know if you've seen them in previous videos, the blowers that make it like a fire effect.
Yeah.
And you could hear those too. So it was kind of all over the place from an AV perspective.
Yes.
But let's move past that. Let's
Sure.
talk about the actual battle, which I thought was a lot of fun.
That's a very fun battle.
There's a lot of personalities in Denver, which is
Yes.
something that I love. And
It's
Evan,
the altitude and the weed.
It's gotta be because everybody in that scene.
Just a little off.
It seems like they're battling through a concussion.
Great.
Like if we had concussion testing protocol in the Roast Battle League, there'd be a lot of
Okay.
people in the blue 10 over there.
But now I'm wondering, if we all battled with concussions, who would come out on top?
Oh, I'd be no good with a concussion.
I don't think I would be either. I think it would be a free-for-all.
I think the entire league would be dominated by Denver and Digits.
Yes.
100%. That's what I think. But let's talk about the because first of all I love Evan Joe's entire shtick.
Yes.
I can't believe I've never heard somebody respond to a joke by saying, "Wow." The one thing I asked was, "Don't make jokes about riddles at Spencer Gifts," and like that was just so funny. Like that blew me away. That was like legitimately hilarious. And then I thought The lizard jokes were great, and then for him to have the Geico gecko, I know you wanted to fact check. It's a gecko,
which
not
I
a
guess
lizard.
is not technically a lizard. It's more of an amphibian, maybe. I could be wrong. I could be fully wrong.
They are in the same family.
Sure.
I think.
I'll give it credit.
Thought that was great. The socks and sandals, condoms in teenagers.
Sandals, such a good joke.
Was great. To me, the biggest edge was Evan just seemed like, this is what I do.
Yes.
I belong here. I've done this before. I'm not checking a phone all the time.
Yep.
I'm in the moment. I have these fun little rebuttals. I'm naturally funny, everything like that. Whereas Manny had these great written jokes and the gecko rebuttal and everything, but he was still kind of like, he seemed nervous a little bit next to Evan.
Yeah, I feel like that's also something that as a battler you have to figure out, right? Where, like, I think I started a lot more not on my phone, but very like written joke, not loose, not in the moment.
Sure.
And lost a lot. And then once I kind of found out what my thing was and got a lot more comfortable, it was a lot easier to win and you have a lot more fun. And I think Evan's kind of in that spot, even though his vibe is, I would say, the opposite of mine. Instead of yes-anding jokes, he's like, wow, how dare you, every time. Which normally I would say never do that. Never act like it's really hurting you.
But if it's so ridiculous.
But if it's so ridiculous, like that's how he's making it work, is he's going over and above and being like, I can't believe at a roast battle you would talk about Spencer's gifts that way. And that for me was hysterical. I think that was great.
I actually did have a moment like that one time before Moses settled into his groove of asking, like, why did you want to battle this person in the pre-fight? He would always switch up the questions. And when I battled Toby, this was back in like 2015, he was like, so tell these people something about you. And I'm like, I don't want to give them too much dirt on myself. So I just, in the moment, I was just like, I'm married, I got a wife, and I got a cat, and if anybody talks shit about my cat, it's going to really hurt my fucking feelings. Let's go. Let's do this thing. And then Toby came out and perfectly piggybacked it, and Moses was like, so why do you want to battle Pat? And he was like, because I hate his fucking cat. And the whole room went insane, which was
why
great.
I love Toby.
Me too. But I'm very much like Evan, or like Manny, where I'm like very by the book and everything like that. So I would never do that during the battle. That only comes out of me in the pre or post battle, whatever. But in the thing, I'm very on book. So I totally get where, I think honestly, if he just memorizes the jokes and loses the phone,
That'll help him a ton.
a ton. Because that's one thing that we see so often is just like the juxtaposition of somebody with, and in this case, literally with a split screen right next to each other.
Yeah.
I think emphasizes it even more.
Yeah, I would say don't use your phone and then cheat out to the audience, not towards your opponent.
That's a great note. Yes. It is still a comedy show. We're still addressing the crowd. And I think also it depends on how you phrase jokes.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm battling you and the joke starts with Paige, blah, 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 I'm saying it to the audience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Paige did this, Paige did that. And then if I have a rebuttal, it might be more like, it's funny you say I look like this because you blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And then it's at you. So that's a great note. Cheat more towards the audience. Just in general, I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, and I would say you can oscillate between the two, where like you can start a joke to the audience and then say, by the way, and then turn to somebody. Like when I a couple weeks ago, I had that joke with Ashley where I was like, your tits aren't even in the room. I have to say that to her. If I say it out, people are like, is this just a joke or was she actually like, yeah. So.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. But really fun battle to start us off this week. Nice to see Denver return to the rankings. They have the number 5 battle this week. And that's it for the United States. You guys fucked up.
USA.
I can't wait to talk. We're going to do this at the end when we go over the standings. Sarah and I have a running bit where when we get to the standings, I ramble and then she just goes, yep. I know you're going to have some things to say.
Thoughts.
You have thoughts.
I have thoughts.
About LA and the US in general.
Yes.
But for now, let's go international for the rest of the show. And we have some really, really fun ones coming up. So I'm excited for you to see them. The number 4 battle this week comes to us from Scotland. And this is, it's very It's a very fun battle. I think you're going to enjoy it a lot. I ran out of synonyms for fun. So let's get to it. This is from Scotland. It's number 4, Crystal Evans versus Paul Connell. Here it is.
Hello.
Hey, hi.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you gonna go first?
Okay, I'll go first.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Okay, yeah, Crystal is American. Unfortunately, she's one of the ones that hasn't been shot. She actually has to wear a bulletproof vest, but that's just because audience fucking hate her. When Crystal asked me to do this roast, I wasn't surprised because, Americans love to start a war. No? Okay. During lockdown, Crystal did a gig for the NHS, and the NHS said that it was one of the worst deaths they'd witnessed. You struggle with nerves before gigs, which is, well deserved because you're fucking shit.
Okay. So Paul started stand-up comedy later in life because he really wanted a career change from his previous position, ringing the bells of Notre Dame. I don't want to go too hard on Paul's looks, though, because one, God already beat me to it. And two, because he told me that tonight he's actually trying to lose his virginity. But it is difficult for him, though, because he looks so much like Woody Allen that Korean children keep running away from him. So that's your go.
Thanks. Crystal's husband, Stuart, has a condition. It's called being married to a cunt. Crystal and Stuart met in a New York bar, and it was very romantic. They went back to his for hand jobs, because that's all Stuart could afford. Crystal, your husband is from Fife. So when you got married, that was a new experience for him because you weren't his cousin.
Just because he said that, I wasn't going to bring this up because Paul told me not to, but Paul and his fiance look like they come from the same embryo, okay? Okay. Paul is so funny. He is a very funny comedian. He is the funniest comedian to never do anything with his career. And it's partially because he has that old punk mentality of never selling out. And he never has, even when the capacity of the room is only 12. No, part of the reason that Paul is not very ambitious is because he's insecure because his dad has always made fun of him. He'd call him a short, specky loser who'd never amount to anything and always live alone. But Paul showed him because now he has a cat. So that's it.
Crystal was in a tragic house fire as a kid. It was very sad because Crystal survived. But tonight's roast she came to willingly. The house fire was quite a bad accident. You've had quite a few accidents. Speaking of that, how are your kids? You're a very busy mother. You're always tired because of your kids, because you're always out all night avoiding them. You never see your fucking kids. the kids are called Sonny and Jesse. No, Crystal, I'm telling you, they're called Sonny and Jesse.
All right. So Paul looks a lot like his parents, okay? Paul's parents divorced when he was 9 because his dad had an affair with his secretary. They actually got caught because Paul's mom secretly filmed them. And she made a lot of money off of the tapes because, in her words, Lord of the Rings was very popular at the time, and people would pay a lot of money to watch a troll fuck a hobbit.
When you told us on stage that your sister died in a house fire, we were all like, "Oh, we had no idea." Now 2 years later, we're like, "Aye, enough already. Tell us a fucking joke." You were burnt in the fire. I ate at your restaurant, and the chicken I ordered was more burnt than your face. Crystal decided to come to the UK to be shit at stand-up. Because, you know, she's American. She can't resist bombing in another country.
Paul, this is true. Paul tried to be a child actor. A lot of people don't know that he auditioned to be the Milky Bar Kid. He didn't get it, but he told me that he still feels like he knows what it's like to be a child actor because he did get molested. Paul looks like a Rick Moranis you'd order off Wish.com. He still might get back into acting, though. If his comedy doesn't work out, he's going to audition to be in kinky porn for people who enjoy watching small blind men try and get their glasses off a high shelf. That's all I got for that one. All right.
Crystal's dad never abused her. No matter how many times she asked him to. It made her feel left out amongst her friends because he'd abused all of them. Your dad voted Trump, but that was just to stop Crystal getting back in the country. Your granddad voted Trump, but then he died of COVID, so, you know... Karma, bitch.
At least my dad's proud of me. Okay. Paul is terrible at social media because he's so old. His Instagram looks like a men's rights account, but for men who want the right to fuck their own cat. His cat's name is Millie, named after how many times she's contemplated suicide. But when she dies, he told me that he's going to get her stuffed, but he'll have to use a strap-on because his dick's not big enough.
So that was number 4. That was Scotland. Very different from Denver.
Yes.
In every conceivable way.
No split screen. Kind of missed it.
Yeah, right? No, excellent audio, video, everything from Scotland is always super clean. Yeah, there were. I think obviously the biggest difference that we have to discuss is just the sheer volume of jokes and whether or not that adds to or subtracts from the battle. We'll talk about that. I do want to say, if you guys are working on your homemade bingo cards at home, this is going to be a really good episode for checking off a lot of the boxes. Bomb means 2 different things. Kill means two different things. Wish.com. A lot of the roast battle classics
Yes.
are going to be hit in this episode. So keep an eye out for those. But I thought overall really, really strong. One of the hardest things for me, and you'll see it with Australia too, which is actually a 3-round battle.
Okay.
And they use a similar structure where they're double and triple tapping.
So it's going to take us 2 days to get through it?
It's going to be a marathon. Yeah, you're here for the long haul. But it's so hard for me to compare when I'm trying to figure out, like, where do we kind of, like, rank the battles. Is that an advantage or a disadvantage? Does that make the battle better or worse? And I think the obvious answer is if all the jokes are great, it makes it unbelievable.
Yes, yeah.
But in a case like this where I feel like you had more hits than misses, still I feel like the misses after a while, by the third or fourth turn, I'm not even going to say joke for each person because they had done 15 by that point, it starts to feel like a little bit of a slog.
Yeah.
And you don't really need all of the... Like, when I battle, I'll make a list maybe of 5 things I want to attack, and I'll write 5 jokes for each.
Right.
But then I just pick the best one.
Yes, yeah.
As opposed to just doing all 5. So, what are your thoughts? Let's start with the battle specifically, and then get into just a broader conversation.
I mean, this was a fun set of TED Talks from 2 different people. I err on the side of word economy always.
Yes.
To my detriment sometimes, where I am way more likely to write a short joke when I could have gone on longer than the opposite. That said, I think if you're going to do the layered punch, which is essentially what they're trying to do them all thematically so that they build. So I think a good example of that in this battle is the cat. Where
the last joke
where he wants to have sex with his cat, and it builds to kind of the biggest punch of all of them. It's very hard to do that multiple times with multiple different topics, and you can't really do the same topic more than once because then you're kind of beating a dead horse, so to speak. I think every single round that they had, there was at least 1 or 2 great jokes.
Right.
And to be honest, I think if they had cut the ones that didn't work, this would be a 9 battle.
Agreed.
Because it would have just been like quick and harsh and back and forth because they're both great. I think he edged her out just a little bit, but at the end she really picked up momentum. This would have been a very evenly matched battle, and I think cutting the jokes that didn't work would have given them maybe 1 or 2 punches per round, and it would have been vicious.
Sure, and that's a little bit of a hindsight thing,
Yes,
right? And
yeah.
because you don't know what jokes are going to work and which ones aren't.
No,
and that's the tough
yeah.
part. If you write 5 on a topic, I might send them to you and 3 other people,
Yeah.
and I might get 4 different answers as to which one they like the most. I think the longer you've been doing it, the more you understand what's going to work and what's not. But when you're first starting, you're kind of like, I don't know, maybe this one, maybe that one. So it is a way to make sure you at least get the laugh by doing all of them.
Yes, but if you pick your favorite, like let's say I picked one of those 5 and I only told the one and it worked, then people just remember it working.
Right.
But if I told all 5 and 3 of them worked and 2 of them didn't, people remember the 2 that didn't.
Yeah.
And so it's like err on the side of like, you really have to kind of trust the process and trust yourself as a joke writer to know what's funny. These people clearly know what's funny.
Right.
They had a number of laughs through the battle.
Yeah.
I think if they trusted their instincts and picked one of each, they probably would have had a knockdown, drag out
Or
battle.
even 2 or 3.
Or even 2 or 3.
Find a way to sort of tag it. And to speak to what you were saying earlier, to build on it thematically. Like Paul's first turn, he did 5 jokes and ended on one that sounded like a setup. It got a really big laugh, and he backed away from it, but it sounded like I don't even remember what it was.
I do remember what it was because I gave it a punch when we were watching it, where he talked about how Americans always love to invade other countries, and and now it's 15 jokes ago.
Right.
But the punch I gave it was, it's the only thing we're good at.
Right.
Like, to imply that we're not good at comedy as well.
That wasn't even the one. He went through this whole thing about she's American, she hasn't been shot yet. Very funny.
That was great.
And then she has to wear a bulletproof vest because audiences hate her. And then that was like, all right, we're going back down. And then he kind of got off of that topic entirely.
But then came back.
And then somehow ended it with like what seemed like a setup, and it got a laugh. And then so it just seemed like they're kind of throwing shit at the wall, seeing what sticks. I do want to say his second turn, it was more thematic about where she met her husband. Then they went back to her place for hand jobs because that's all he could afford.
So
which was
good.
outstanding. There were a lot of really high highs in the battle. You just kind of had to slog through a little bit of like the other stuff to kind of get there.
And I did love, he does something that I think I've only seen Dan Nolan successfully do before, which is to start a joke as if you're going to have it be this like creative turn punchline and basically just end it with "you bitch," like fuck you. Like to not actually tell a joke, just be like, she, or what was it, her husband suffers from a condition, being married to a cunt,
And she loved that
and
joke.
that's a hysterical joke. That's so funny because you would think it would be something more elaborate.
Right.
No, it's just calling somebody a cunt, which I think my favorite version of it is Dan Nolan, where he responded to a thank you with just "you're welcome, cunt."
Yeah.
And it is hysterical. So I do think that's really funny. And he had a couple of them that really popped hard, but those would be things to stack on other things, right? I view that the same way I view it as like, if you said a fat joke and I was like, yeah, I am fat, but you this, that's your one, right? That's your cunt or fuck
Right,
you
right.
or bitch or whatever. And then tell your other joke.
Yes.
That way you stack those two.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to be in the moment, which part of the reason it's tough to do that is because they've got the clipboards.
Here's what I'll say about the clipboards.
What is it with the UK and the clipboards?
Here's what I'll say about the clipboards. If you have to, at some point during the battle, open the clipboard, move the piece of paper to the and move on to paper number 2, you've written too much.
Too many jokes. Too many jokes.
A 5-joke roast battle should fit on one 8.5 by 11.
At least one, because he also flipped it and then had to pull it to the back.
Yeah, it was double-sided.
It was so
oh
much.
my god, yeah, it was a lot. But I really like Scotland is really interesting because it's a lot like Australia and to a degree Tokyo, where they're running events less frequently. They're running them maybe like once a month. With the new RBL rules, they're able to submit battles for up to a month following the event. And the quality of the battles has been great. Scotland has sent us 3 battles, and they've all been top 5. I think one was a number 1, one was a number 2.
I remember the one that you and Sarah couldn't understand that was like number 2 or 3 because of the audience reaction. And I was like, I've watched too much Outlander. I understood most of this.
We'll get you to translate next time. But running events less frequently, but the comics are clearly seasoned comics. They know what they're doing. The video looks great, everything like that. It's like, man, if you guys get to a point where you can run even once every 2 weeks instead of every month.
Oh, they'd clean up.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. I think when you're running things once a month, you write a ton of jokes. You want to get all of them out.
That's a
and
great
I think
point,
that's
too.
part of it too. Where like,
That's a great
if
point.
you were running it more frequently and you got more comfortable with like, all right, I'm just doing these 2, or whatever each round, they would be vicious. They'd be cleaning up that international league, like hands down.
For sure. Well, let's stick with the International League because it's all we have this week because the U.S. fucked up.
Sorry.
And let's go to Barcelona. Number 3 battle this week. The first time we've seen Barcelona in a couple weeks. They had a lot of stuff from their Barcelona versus London event. This is a Barcelona versus Barcelona. We might have actually had one of those a couple weeks ago. I lose track.
Oh,
but
we
this
did.
is yeah, that's right. It was Marnie versus Hector, I believe. This one is a fun one coming to us from Barcelona. Number 3 battle this week. This is Hannah Becker versus Tessa Anaya, and it's number 3. Here it is.
All right, so Tessa, fun fact about Tessa. She has made a 64-slide PowerPoint detailing why she thinks Taylor Swift is gay. I mean, people always say you can't do anything useful with an English degree. They're right. And I'm sorry, Tessa, but like Gaylor, it's never, ever gonna happen. Sorry. Listen, the truth will come out, just like your family's been waiting for you to do. So I was was really nervous to do the show tonight because Hannah and I are great friends, and I don't want to damage that friendship, you know. But it's not a joke. I do care about her. But then I was thinking, you know, if this friendship can't take a couple jokes, then it's as weak as her thin, wiry hair. I mean, that shit looks like a moldy packet of ramen noodles. Okay? It's like doll hair if they made bad nutrition Barbie.
Speaking of hair, Tessa is married to a French man because she really wanted to find a husband that would match her armpit hair.
You know, I wear it long and proud. So, speaking of marriage, Hannah had a messy divorce. And the only thing she got to keep was her shitty taste in men. She still has the same ones. She likes local boys. She likes the Catalinos, okay? You know, and... did I make that up? I don't know. And, yeah. It's like as soon as she gets around the Catalan cock, she sucks it like it's the last green onion at a calzota.
Delicious. I love it. So Tessa is bisexual, and she's in an open relationship with her husband. So she's bi and open. You think, oh my God, she's so lucky she can sleep with whoever she wants. But it actually just means that she gets ghosted by both men and women.
That's it. Throw over to the...
So I went on Hannah's Instagram to look for some inspiration for these jokes, and all I found were targeted ads for comfortable clothes, grocery store muffins, and white wine. I know it sounds sad, but it's actually pretty impressive because I've never seen somebody so young promote the divorcee lifestyle so well.
Oh God.
Thanks, Hora the Explorer. So Tessa's a half Mexican. That's why I said the Hora the Explorer thing. I mean, look at her. Like she's as Mexican as like, you know, like when white people put turmeric on their food and say it's spicy. Like I think when her parents were making her white mom was like, no honey, I got a great recipe for this one. And the recipe was potato salad.
Don't knock mom's potato salad, okay?
I'm sure it's delicious.
You're Jewish. What do you guys think? That's not known for their cuisine. So Hannah has a boyfriend. I know. Yeah, give her some applause because that must have been hard work. Yeah. But she doesn't bring him to the shows a lot, you know? And I don't know why, because he's a nice guy. You know, he's cute. You know, he's got nice hair. He is a little off-putting, a little weird. For example, I had him over for Christmas dinner, and he only said 2 words the entire night. Help me!
Last joke.
Yeah, I suffocate him every night.
He loves it!
Thick thighs save lives, baby.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my God. Wow, so much support. So yeah, Tessa's from Detroit, aka Motor City. Judging by you, it's not Motorboat City. But Tessa's pussy is just like the collapse of the American automotive industry. Because she's been dominated by smaller international models. And she replaces people with machines to really get the job done. difference is that Tessa's never fucked any black people.
Listen, I am always accepting applications. Okay. Vroom vroom, bitch. So Hannah is from a Halloween-themed town in Massachusetts. Whatever. Interruption, -5 points. She's from a Halloween-themed town, which makes sense when you look at her boyfriend. He's a spooky motherfucker. But it doesn't make that much sense because I just feel like she has much more of a Christmas vibe to her. Because she looks so much like Mrs. Claus. You know, not just because she's jolly, but because she looks so old. And she definitely has a stash of cookies next to her bed.
All right, guys, that's
Amazing! So that was number 3. That was Barcelona, Hannah versus Tessa. I think that speaks a little bit to what I was saying, where it's like so hard to compare what we just saw to say Scotland, and like, you know, I would say 3/4 of the way through the battle, I'm like, man, I might have fucked up on this one. I think Scotland is maybe better. And I forgot, and I got excited when Hannah started her closer.
Oh,
because
that's such a good closer.
Of all the shows we've run during this season, this is week 8. We're about 1/4 of the way into the 2023 season. That might be my favorite joke. And we just got done seeing a battle where we talked about building on the punches and, you know, the ideal perfect way to do that. And then 4 punches in a row. She like hit for the cycle. It was single, double, triple, home run. Just a perfectly landed knockout punch. And then Tessa, I've been in that situation where somebody...
You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you have one joke left and you're just like, well, I'm fucked.
That when we battled and you had that long joke that you took the risk on, how was I coming back from that? I'm not.
Right.
Like, you won the battle at that point.
Right. It's just one of those things where you're like, well, fuck.
Like, it was nice to be up here on stage with you.
Exactly. You're like, do I even need to... I'll just go. And, you know, Tessa hung in with her last one. The Mrs. Claus thing was, like, funny. But the American automotive industry was just...
so good.
Unreal. A couple thoughts I had on this battle. Number 1, Barcelona. The word comedy is misspelled on your sign. It says Comedy Clubhouse, and you spelled comedy wrong. I need you to fix that.
Geez.
Driving me nuts. They put an extra E in there. And I noticed this a couple months ago, and I like went online to see if like maybe in Spain, comedy is spelled Comedey. I didn't find any evidence for that. If that is the case, I apologize, but I think it might be a typo. So the second E, all right. The second thing is one joke that didn't really hit, and I'm not sure I interpreted it the correct way. But if I interpreted it the way I thought, it's such a funny premise and it deserved more.
Okay.
The idea that you could go on someone else's Instagram and just look at their pictures and then you start receiving targeted ads for like white wine and like loose fitting clothes.
and grocery store muffins.
Yeah. So funny to me. The concept that you would be so pathetic that just looking at your Instagram, the algorithm would be like, I guess he's pathetic too. That is fantastic.
That is how
that.
I interpreted it personally. And I don't know if it just didn't play as well in the room, but that's how I interpreted it.
I was blown away by how funny that was as a concept, because you've watched a million battles and you think you've heard everything and you're like, that is fucking great.
That is great. I also loved Hannah did something that I'm a big fan of doing, where if somebody insults your appearance, embrace it and double down on it and then tell your joke.
Thick thighs save lives.
Thick thighs save lives. And she turned it. Like, here's the thing. We didn't know at the time that she had that like absolute monster of a closer.
Right.
Because that's what led into it. But if she hadn't had that monster of a closer, it was a quick way to diffuse and move on.
Sure.
From a joke that got a pretty decent laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was, both of them I thought were really, really, consistent kind of the whole way through. And I thought they both had some like really great moments. I did want to talk to you specifically because your ears perked up.
Oh, yes.
As soon as Hannah started the battle by saying Tessa has a 64-point slideshow presentation
about Taylor Swift
being gay, and Paige was just like, I agree with that, by the way.
I believe this. I believe this.
The floor is yours.
I am not the expert. There are many that are more well-versed than me because I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan in general. Not like she's not a bad person or anything, but it's not my thing. But there are multiple instances of her spending a lot of time with particular female friends, either while she's in the midst of a breakup or in between boyfriends, or she has a boyfriend or whatever, but she and this girl are taking fun trips. There's a lot of lyrics to her songs that people will interpret in a more sapphic way. And there is a huge compendium of online people trying to I'm pretty sure she's gay and I'm pretty sure it's this friend and they've been friends for years and this has been going on for years.
First of all, I feel like I have a pretty extensive vocabulary.
Do you?
Sapphic and compendium.
You've never heard the word sapphic?
No, what is sapphic?
Based on the Isle of Sapphos in Greece, where it was all women. Yeah, no, it's lesbian.
Got it.
Sapphic, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. Cody, the producer, is off camera.
Sure.
Yeah, dude, fucking
of course.
sapphic.
Yeah.
You fucking idiot.
Yeah, try typing that into Pornhub and see what happens for you.
That sounds like a fun journey.
I'm sure
I
they've
would love
got
to go
it.
on.
Yeah, there's no way they don't have sapphic.
How do you spell that?
Sapphic, sapphic.
Okay. And in the meantime, you what was it? Compendium?
Compendium, a large group of.
All right, let me get this away from the camera. I don't want to get us kicked off of YouTube.
A little crackly. Yeah.
All right. SAPP. Oh yeah. There's a Sapphic erotica is one of the.
There you go.
Yeah. Looks like thousands of videos.
Oh yeah. I'm
I'll
sure.
explore in depth later.
It's the word people use for lady on lady action when you paid too much money for a liberal arts degree. Like that's all it is. It's the lesbians that own a bookstore, not a construction company. That's all it is.
That's fantastic.
I have a number of sapphic friends. Let's put it that way.
So
does Taylor Swift.
Yeah, apparently.
Just saying.
So, Tessa, if you're watching this, feel
Please
free, send us.
Yes, I want to see your slideshow.
I'm on Instagram at @ThePatBarker or at RBL Commish. You can hit me either of those places at Rampage Wesley.
Yes.
We would like to see, because Paige, I think, covered the first 7 or 8 slides, but there's 50 or so to go. So
Here's the thing. I'm sure it's an in-depth analysis of lyrics through the different eras and then pointing out which female friend she was overly close to in each era. Maybe. I hope I'm right.
Every song, and this is why I just take things at face value. Every Taylor Swift song I've ever heard is about some dude. So I'm just like, she's
or
straight.
so you think. Like that red scarf one is actually about her losing her virginity to Jake Gyllenhaal. So missing it.
I love how she starts off by I'm not a big Taylor Swift
I'm not.
fan. It's not my thing.
I love
now I will interpret every single one of her songs.
I love conspiracy theories and I love interpreting songs. It's two of some of my favorite things. Wow. I just don't enjoy a lot of her songs.
Okay. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Gyllenhaal, huh?
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Did not know that.
Yeah. Allegedly at his sister Maggie Gyllenhaal's house as described in the song.
Do you think she fucked Maggie?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. See, now we're getting into this. Is what everybody
here's
tunes
my
into
question.
the podcast for.
Was it Jake at all? I don't know.
The world.
I got to see the slides.
May never know.
Show us the slides.
We need more. We need more Tessa Anaya battles to break this down a little bit further.
I just need you to put up a YouTube video with the camera way too close and a bad background behind you and walk me through all of it.
Quick jump cuts.
Yeah. With charts that are blurry so I can't read them.
And also Taylor Swift should be misspelled. There should be an extra E in there for some reason.
TAILOR Swift.
But overall, a lot of fun. Really enjoyed the battle. Hannah's closer, one of the best jokes I've heard in a long time.
So good.
Tessa's energy on stage and a couple of her premises I thought were outstanding.
Very fun.
Really, really enjoyed that. And if anybody's watching at home, that is how you do that 3 or 4 joke shit. That's how we've now seen it done sort of haphazardly, and we've now seen it done perfectly. So if you're going to study one of them, study that one. Let's move to the number 2 battle this week, and this comes to us from Australia. Australia, a very impressive run recently. After not even holding an event during the first month of the season, they hold one. They have the number 1 battle 2 weeks in a row to pull into second place in the international standings, and this week they come in at number 2. The third battle from this event, 3 battles, all top 2 battles, and this one was for the title. This is an interesting one. This was a finals of a 32-person tournament.
Jeez.
It's a 3-round battle with a really bizarre twist in round 2. that I'm looking forward to discussing with you. And it saw Australia's new champion crowned. This is from Australia. This is Kirsty Carr versus Jack Jones. Yes, Jack Jones. And it's the number 2 battle this week. Let's check it out.
When Jack and I caught up leading into tonight, I was surprised to find out that we had something in common. We both have chronic inflammatory conditions. I have endometriosis, and Jack is one massive cunt.
Kirsty's 36 and childless. We'd like to thank her for taking the night off, doing IVF, to be here. Kirsty's performance tonight is going to be just like IVF. A lot of failed attempts, followed by a devastating loss.
I'd say wipe that smug look off your face, but that's just your face. Jack had a difficult childhood. His parents got divorced, and it is what you're thinking. He was the reason. The custody battle was over who didn't want him. And in the end, his mother lost and had to keep him because the court overruled throwing him in the river.
Kirsty's wanted to be a comedian since she was 8 years old, and 28 years later, she's still trying to achieve that goal. But Kirsty looks like a missing child nobody looked for. Maddie, but no cans.
I might have small tits, but that means they'll never sag. Unlike your asshole. Jack has a rare condition where he can't grow pubic hair on his body, and instead he grows it on his head. And then by choice, styles it like a 50-year-old lesbian.
If you know anything about Kirsty, you know she's a self-developer. She's done yoga, ayahuasca, trauma release, shaking exercises. But she had to stop the shaking exercises after that baby died. It's okay, I prefer the boosted laughs. Kirsty looks like a bird because she's got a beak and crow's feet.
Big nose. It's a blessing and a curse. It means I can smell the shit that's coming out of your mouth. So Jack is both a soccer player and a referee, which is a great reminder that we should never try to be more than one thing at once. Is he a good referee at least? No. He's been with his girlfriend for 5 years and still can't tell when she's faking it.
Kirsty's very cultured. She's been to 67 different countries. She knows how to say wrong hole in 5 different languages. This is a true story. When Kirsty was living in Germany and tried to leave, she only got deported back to Germany. Because when they took one look at that big nose and emaciated figure, they assumed she'd escaped from Auschwitz.
model trains. And then directs them all to Auschwitz.
Kirsty got engaged a few months ago. Can we have a round of applause for Kirsty, ladies and gentlemen? And have a moment of silence for her fiancé. Well, Kirsty is very excited to be engaged and finally go from practice girlfriend to participation trophy wife. But I'm very pleased for Kirsty. She had a terrible breakup in her 30s. Her parents just couldn't do it anymore. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Carr, wherever you are. God gave Kirsty endometriosis. Now she has issues having children. God also gave Kirsty no tits. Just so that he could reiterate. Kirsty was telling me she had surgery to have her endometrial tissue removed, and she said, "Do you want to hear more about it?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." You know, like, give me.
Time's off. Give it up. All right, give it up for Jack. All right, Kirsty, go.
Okay, Jack Jones is such a boring person. I didn't have a lot to go by. So here's a list of things that he looks like: a store mannequin, complete with fake plastic mound in place of genitals. Gumby, if Gumby was a white supremacist. The 12-year-old who thinks he's smarter than the teacher. The feature on an episode of Child Porn Stars. Where are they now? And Lucky has a protein deficiency. You're meant to swallow it, not just let it land on your face.
Kirsty used to work for a cancer charity. They hired her because they assumed she'd had a double mastectomy. Kirsty has endometriosis, but look on the bright side. You know, at least you didn't need the morning after pill after those one-night stands.
I might have endometriosis, but it's less painful than listening to you. Jack doesn't like to make plans for the day so that the word premeditated can't get thrown around a courtroom. Look at those blank dead eyes. He definitely keeps body parts in a fridge. He makes Jeffrey Dahmer look like Mother Teresa.
Kirsty car, more like Kirsty clown car. 5 guys can fit inside her at once. Kirsty's pussy's like Mars. Men have been exploring it for years, but there's still no sign of life.
Except maybe some bacteria.
I mean, a whore will fuck anyone, a slut will fuck anyone but you. So Jack went to an all-boys school, which had him well prepared by the time he had his first colonoscopy. That's how he found out he had bowel disease. He kept uncontrollably shitting on other guys' dicks.
Kirsty's very proud of her butt. Can we have a round of applause for Kirsty's butt, ladies and gentlemen? Let's do that. Kirsty's butt's like her ability to have kids. It doesn't exist. Kirsty looks like my older sister, which sucks. Because there goes my incest fetish.
Thank you, human version of celery. Jack works in the the legal department for an insurance company, proving that he doesn't just look like an arrogant douchebag.
Kirsty's smart and skinny. Her school grades were just like her tits, straight A's. If you were naked on TV, they wouldn't have to blur your chest.
You look like you eat people's babies for fun. Jack's girlfriend is a very talented aerial gymnast. Her thighs are so strong that Jack believes his penis is bigger than a baby's finger. And she's so flexible that he can fold her up and put her back in the box he bought her in.
Final lines.
Kirsty's very fit, she exercises a lot. Her daily cardio is the walk of shame. Kirsty was on a dating show during COVID called Dating in Quarantine. But it was just like a normal date for Kirsty, because afterwards, the guy had to get tested.
You look like an 18th century slave owner statue. On a similar line to the whole STI debacle. Jack's not bad looking, He's the type of guy you'd want to wear a condom with. But even so, nothing can protect you from his genital ward of a personality.
All right, so that was number 2 this week. Congratulations to Kirsty Carr, who is the Roast Battle Australia champion. I cannot say enough about surviving a 32-person tournament, which I believe, if my quick math is right, that's 5 battles you have to win.
At least, yeah.
And I don't think they were all 3 rounds, but the Australian style, even if it's 1 round 5 jokes, that's really 1 round 15 jokes.
Right.
And then in this closer, obviously, way more than that.
Yeah.
It's an absolute marathon. They both deserve a ton of respect.
Yes.
It's none of that sounds easy or, frankly, fun.
Right. Yeah. I think my
work.
fun would tap out around like round 1.5. Basically.
Right. And they both did an excellent job. That was a final befitting of a championship fight. There's a lot of different angles I would love to talk about here. We're not going to get to all of them. I love the idea of a championship match, how it's different from a regular match. We've seen it a lot of times in LA where the championship fights are letdowns and disappointments because they're too focused on winning and not enough on sort of having fun, and there's no camaraderie up there. I want to talk about the crowd booing. That's 3 weeks in a row we've seen an Australian battle, 3 different co-hosts, and I go through this every time where they're like, whoa, the crowd boos, but then they're right back on board.
That's fascinating to me because in LA, if you get booed, unless you can immediately turn it around, that is your death knell for the battle. If they boo you, it's like they abandon you for the rest of the battle.
And in Austin.
And in Austin, too.
I've seen that. Been there.
Yeah.
It's a uniquely Australian thing that I haven't seen in any other city where they are willing to let you know, hey, that joke stunk, we didn't like it, but we're right back on board immediately.
Yes, which to be honest, I love it. I think it's more fair because it also gives you as a battler a little more leeway to experiment because you're not afraid of turning the audience on one joke. Where I think sometimes you can play with it in LA where you're like, I know this first half's going to get a boo, but then I bring them back, right? But it's always risky. And if it wasn't that risky, I think people would write almost a little more creatively because they could be like, whatever. Who cares if they boo?
Jack got booed 3 different times.
Yes!
And still you can make an argument that he might have won the battle.
He did a great job. Yeah.
It was outstanding. And then the third thing that I really want to talk about is the structure, the 3-round structure, specifically the second round, because that felt like the turning point to me.
Yes.
They were both really good in round one. Jack had a slight edge. I feel like there was a bit of a stumble on Kirsty's part. She had to check her phone at one, which, by the way, 3 rounds not checking their phones, no clipboards, no nothing.
There was
Got to
like
give points for that.
25 jokes in that battle. Yeah.
It was unbelievable, but I thought Jack, he opened strong with like the IVF thing.
Yes.
Really, really good. Which, by the way, as somebody who went through IVF, I can't believe that's that relatable of a concept. The whole crowd was like completely on board with it. She knows how to say wrong hole in 5 different languages.
That's such a good joke.
Was great.
So funny.
His escape from Auschwitz thing was great. And then this is another thing we could spend time on. I feel like she had an Auschwitz joke on deck anyway, and she figured out how to fashion the cadence to make it seem like it was almost a rebuttal. Really masterful work from both, but I think Jack had the edge. Then we go to round 2. We used to do, when we did 3-round battles in LA, the middle round was the same kind of thing where you get a period of time to just let them cook, right? It's not back and forth. You'd get a minute. And even though maybe we kept to that minute at the beginning when I started doing it, it very quickly became, hey,
3 jokes.
3 jokes.
Yeah.
3 jokes, you get a minute. They stuck to that 30 seconds to a T. They interrupted him in the middle of a joke. And I don't know if either of them were sort of... she seemed very prepared for what that second round was.
She strategized for that second round, and very wisely so.
Yes, because not only did he only end up getting like one big laugh during his round, also he opened the third with jokes on the same subject that was on the second. So I wonder, was there more to be done in the second that would have set up some of the stuff to start the third?
Or did he shift from the second into the third?
That's the other thing.
That's the other question. Because at a certain point in the third, I felt like I had heard 16 jokes about her boobs. And I wonder if some of that was supposed to be in the second, and the second was thematic, and then he was going to move on. But I think that's also part of what turned the battle towards her.
Yes.
On top of the fact that she played that second round very, very smart. Because if you only have 30 seconds, you have to maximize what you can say, physically get out of your mouth in 30 seconds, which is not a lot of time. When we had 3 jokes in the center round, you would often theme them, right? And you could then build to a theme, because we don't do the 3 or 4 jokes per round the way that these people do. So that was the round to do it. But if you only had time, she played it so incredibly smart. You look like jokes are the fastest joke you can tell with the biggest pop. So if you can pull them off and make them accurate, it really works for you. And not only did she pull them off and make it accurate, she had a list, and she clearly saved her best ones and just did them back to back to back to back, which rolls that laugh over and over.
5 big laughs in 30 seconds.
Yes.
Gained momentum.
Yep.
And was able to, I feel like, sustain that momentum. Jack fought back against it, and he had some big pops in the third. Especially her pussy's like Mars. Guys have been studying it for years. No signs of life. But she had a couple. He likes to make plans so the word premeditated can't get thrown around.
That's a great joke.
He knew he had a bowel thing when he kept shitting on other guys' dicks. Like gross but
Visual.
effective. Very visual. I think that they made the right call in giving it to her. I felt like her performance was a little bit more complete, and the second round might be the decider because she handled it so much more effectively than he did.
Yeah, I think this is also a case of likability, where you really have to play and harness likability in this game, if you want to think of it that way.
Right.
Or you have to go so far to the other side that you play the heel, which very few people do successfully. And I think that she came in, she didn't do as great that first round, but when she gained the momentum on that second round, that really helped her. Yes. Because as he continued to kind of needle her appearance and needle her tits, you started to, that's when he got booed twice. And I think it was the crowd being like, yeah, we get it. Like, enough.
Right.
And then she switched it up and did 4 or 5 different topics in that time. And I think that kind of won them over as her being like, yeah, I'm roasting and he's just a guy shitting on a girl's looks.
Right, to the point where when she managed to find the only way to contort her body and the angle at which to move to make it look like she had an ass.
She did not have a butt, but she did.
And that's Paige's observation.
She knew her angles.
I'm not here to judge anybody's butt or lack thereof. Paige said that, so
good for you for knowing your angles.
Yeah. But that was a big. That was almost like the timid kid throwing a knockout at the bully.
Yes.
And it definitely got the crowd on her side, which they were already there, but it really emphasized that point.
Well, and there is also some gender issues at play here, right? So if you are a male battler, one of the things that seems the easiest to do is to hit a woman's looks over and over and over and over again. And depending on the woman you're battling, that can work for or against you. Because if the crowd starts to like her and empathize with her, they will turn on you for it.
Mm-hmm.
It has won me many a battle.
Sure.
Just leaning into being likable, knowing that someone else will shoot themselves in the foot by calling me fat 5 times in a row. That's, if you know that about you, you can work with it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And I can't even criticize the strategy because at the end of 32 battlers and 3 rounds, it's like, I don't know. I'll write what I have, and her tits are small, and
her tits are small. She has no butt.
Yeah,
her nose is big.
I assume they both have lives outside of roast battle and other things to do.
Yes. Oh, of course.
So great work from both of them. Great work from Australia. Could easily have been the number 1 battle this week. It's so hard to judge a 3-rounder against a 1-rounder. They very easily could have had the number 1 battle 3 weeks in a row, but just for limited resources in terms of how often they're running the shows, their output has been outstanding. And we're going to move to number 1 right now, and it's a similar kind of situation. I'm talking about Tokyo. This is where we're heading. This is a number 1 battle for them this week. They were number 2 last week, which means, much like Australia, they waited till late in the game to have an event. But now they're putting some big points on the board. This is from the Tokyo Comedy Bar, which just celebrated its 1-year anniversary. Congratulations.
Congrats.
And I believe the co-owner, co-operator of the bar is a guy named BJ Fox, who is in this battle. This is BJ Fox going up against Mike Paxman, who is a name I haven't heard before. And it was a knockdown, drag-out fight. It's the number 1 battle this week. Here it is.
Battle! BJ! Mike, let's go! All right. BJ strikes a commanding pose in any room. He's a big boy. I like to think of him as what it would be like if an umbrella wished to be a real boy. And he also has quite a commanding fashion sense. Usually he rocks up in whatever's on sale at Uniqlo that they didn't sell and he found outside afterwards. But tonight he always told me when we were working together, dress for the job you want. So I've come as a gay lumberjack and he's come as JJ's fluffer. Yeah, I see it. An umbrella. Your body shape and your kind of translucent floppiness. You look like a used condom wished he was a real boy. At least I got used. Mike, if you can't tell, Mike is bi. Mike is a bi man. He puts the bi in albino, and. But actually, a lot of my gay friends say they don't like bi people. They don't like the bis because they're taking everything, aren't they? They're having, they're not really gay. They're taking it from every single angle, every single person, every different hole. They're doing everything. They're having their cake and eating it, or as Mike, being bi in Japan, he's having his boot cake and then eating it. Nice. So as was mentioned, JJ and I used to work in the video games industry because we're white guys in Japan and we're not English teachers. Any English teachers in tonight? Yeah, I thought the tickets were too expensive. But before we worked together, we used to work at a company called Voodoo. Before that, he used to work at Rockstar Games. GTA 5. He worked on Grand Theft Auto. Now, he worked there for a long time. He played a lot of that fucking game, so he's seen it all. It's not surprising to him anymore, but sometimes when his wife and his kids have gone up to bed, he'll pop on GTA, and he doesn't want to do the story anymore, but he'll just zoom around a bit, kill some prostitutes, get the police a bit riled up, because it's now the only way he can make anyone want him. I like the idea your premise is no one wants me. You've changed jobs 19 times in 12 years, mate. Yeah, no joke. He's been sacked 2 times. He's changed job 4 times in the last 3 years. Yeah. He's the only gay guy in Tokyo who gets more action on his LinkedIn profile than his Grindr.
And the profile name's the same, just a white male looking for great jobs.
How do you think I got the job with him, mate?
They don't call me BJ Fox for nothing.
BJ's wife is Japanese, obviously. And she is 11 years younger than BJ. Yeah. And now, like, you see, like, whenever that comes up, there's always a bit of like a weird, like, not a boo, but like a weird energy. And BJ gets quite upset about that. He doesn't appreciate that. And do you know what? I agree. I don't think 11 years is a big difference. I don't think it's a big deal. What we don't like about it is you've been using that excuse since you were 20. Now, his wife is half German, half Japanese. No, I can't think of anything for that one. It's very international, but weirdly, what's interesting is BJ's actually also kind of international, mixed, if you will, because although he looks and sounds British, he is actually born in America, in New Jersey.
Hell yeah.
As you can tell from my accent, I don't know where New Jersey is. And as I said, he likes to live as a British man. Right? He's very proud of his British accent. He wants his two daughters to speak British, proper British English, which I agree with. But sometimes his American side comes out. I think Ruben just had a stroke. Sometimes his American side comes out, like, for example, the time when he dropped 2 massive, potent explosions in his Japanese wife's fertile valley, and everything that came out since has been horribly mutated. She wanted a fat man, but she got a little boy.
Can I just say, that joke lasted longer than Mike usually does in a job. True, I am married to a half Japanese German lady. Mike is married to a Japanese trans man. Fuck you, mate. Fuck you. Can I just say, when his mum found out, she took it better than you did. You know what she said, his mum? She said, well, I always knew. You went to Japan, just tell me, is it an Autobot or Decepticon?
Thank you, the picture of Dorian Cradle Snatcher. I'd like to end on a serious note. One of the sponsors, or one of the things that is affiliated with this bar is TEL, which is the Tokyo English Lifeline. It is an organization, a charity that was set up to provide support to people who are struggling with depression or stress or even suicidal thoughts in Japan. And I have spoken to TEL before. It's genuinely true. It is a wonderful, wonderful organization, and I am not here to make fun of them, and I am not here to make fun of suicide or depression. It is a very real thing, and we should support them. However, BJ is an ambassador for TEL. Yeah, which is pretty cool, right? Yeah, but I always wondered why, and I think I figured it out. You see, BJ, every night, for hours, helps out with the TEL helpline, listening to people who are really on the edge and really struggling. Not because he cares about them, he just knows at this point it's his only real chance to hear one of his bits kill. If you're interested in TEL, come and have a chat with us.
Nasty. Mike is so blonde. He looks like an Adolf Hitler diversity hire. Queer eye for the Third Reich. It's true though. It's true. His pronouns are he, his, and Himmler. So Mike is married to a trans man. That means that J.K. Rowling hates everything about him. But at the same time, he looks like he's been made up of every single character. From the Harry, he looks like Harry, Draco Malfoy, and Ron. Triple Team Hermione. The prisoner of Alzka Gangbang. No, shit, I just ruined.
BJ's not his real name. He chose that. His real name is Ben. Ben Jennings. Yeah, he changed it up to BJ Fox. It's not that it's a bad name. It's just that if I was renaming myself, I wouldn't name myself after my favorite experience from a furry sex convention.
You, of all people, should not be dead naming me, mate.
So there it was, the number one battle of the week. Tokyo, BJ versus Mike. Again, man, any of the five, I feel like anything could have been kind of anywhere.
Yeah.
I enjoyed all of it this week, and I'm so excited to see what Tokyo has been able to accomplish. And I thought that this was a really, really solid, this was maybe the most... This might have had the highest percentage of hits against punches thrown.
Yeah, I would agree.
Of the other battles, and I think that's why I went for the number one battle here. Really enjoyed a lot of it, and we filled up the entire bingo card. We had a bombing thing, we had a killing thing, we had a...
I mean, a Hiroshima Nagasaki joke, which, like... typically those don't fly, because there was one a couple weeks back in Tokyo where somebody successfully told a Nagasaki joke, and people were like shocked that it did okay.
I remember hearing that was actually that was months ago. It was Vinay Murthy versus Itsuki, and Vinay had a fat man little boy joke that it was explained to me. Obviously I know the historical context, but that shit is very, very, very difficult to pull off in Tokyo.
I would imagine.
Yeah. But it happened. There were a lot of big hits. I love BJ flipping the, and again, to the tried and true roast battle staple, you look like something wish to become a real boy.
Yes.
He did the umbrella, and then BJ had the used condom thing, which was great. Your LinkedIn gets more looks than your Grindr. I loved Mike's, if you have to call a guy a pedophile.
Yes.
That's a clever way to be like, his wife is 11 years younger. It's not a big deal, but he's been using that excuse since he was 20. Make us do a little bit of math.
Jokes, yeah.
The Decepticon thing, the Queer Eye for the Third Reich, just like, was all really good. I did think it was funny that, like, off camera, we've been talking about how, man, I kind of miss having, like, a DJ to have fun sound effects.
I know.
And then, like, they just started randomly playing a song during the middle of one of his jokes accidentally.
It's what happens sometimes.
It happens. Risk reward. But thought this was a really good battle. Thought BJ took it, but was really impressed first time seeing Mike. Thought there was a lot of good stuff on both sides. What were your thoughts?
I agree. And this to me is proof that, like, the short hits make a battle feel faster and feel funnier sometimes. And it's not because the jokes that other people were writing where they were stacking weren't funny, because there's a lot of funny in there, but it's the speed. Because after a while, the audience kind of gets bogged down, but not in this battle. This battle is hit for hit, no time wasted, no punches wasted, and almost every single joke hits. Like, if you ran this in the belly room or anywhere, this would be one of the top battles of the night, and I think that's why it deserves the top spot.
Yeah.
You could run it internationally, all around America, everyone would love it, everyone would vote for it.
Yeah. And from a strategy perspective, I think that BJ, because he was so quick and hit so many, just like punches, word efficiency, everything like that. When Mike had a couple jokes with longer setups, certainly the last joke, the tell joke, and then the long one that the DJ ended up interrupting, which I don't even remember what the joke was, but it was very, very long.
Yeah, and it you know what, it didn't matter because he recovered immediately. Like,
he did.
He acknowledged the DJ and then went back to it.
But I guess what I'm saying is that even those two long jokes would be short jokes by the standards of Scotland and Australia.
Yeah.
But in Tokyo, they really stuck out like a sore thumb because BJ was controlling the tempo of the battle. You see that a lot in basketball. Like one of the reasons the Warriors were so successful, and before them, the Phoenix Suns of the early 2000s, it was get the ball and go. 10 seconds, shot up. And everybody had this pace that they kind of played at. And then Phoenix was like, we're going to change the tempo and the pace. And Golden State does that a little bit too. And then you make the other team kind of play your game and adapt to it. And I thought BJ, and it's perfect at the end of a long international episode to see how you can sort of control the speed of the battle. And use it to your advantage.
I think there's also an element to this too. Tokyo has been around for a long time because Tokyo's been following me online for like 6 years. Mm-hmm. They've been around forever. And so I think in some ways they play to LA rules closer than a lot of the other international battles do.
I agree with that.
And so I think maybe for us that feels a little more familiar, which will be really interesting to see when we go over how that bears out. But this seemed the most familiar to me in a way.
Yeah.
And the most of like how I'm used to playing and how we play on TV and things like that. So I think that plays into it too, maybe. And I wonder if some of the battlers in like the UK or other places internationally are kind of looking at us being like, that's not enough of a joke. Like, build it out.
Sure, absolutely. And I mean, you have to adapt. Like, look, if I went and battled in Australia tomorrow, I'm not going to go in there and just do one quick joke per turn. Because if I face a Jack Jones or a Kirsty Carr or one of the guys that we saw,
they're going to have like 14 jokes.
And I'm just going to get pummeled. Yeah. Right? So I think you could go and do 2 or 3 and sort of like control the tempo that way. But it's too extreme to go and just be like 1, 1, 1, 1. But yeah, no, definitely. I think people in the Australian scene might watch this and be like, they barely said anything.
Yeah.
But it is just sort of the style that we came up on. For me, it was all about the percentage of punches landed.
Yes.
And how many laughs per sort of second or whatever.
Yeah, and I'll compare it to something that I feel like is kind of in the middle, which is New York's style, which is many, many jokes, many, many rounds, but only one joke back and forth.
Right.
Where like, as opposed to if you look at Scotland, it was like, okay, 4 punches each before we go back and forth.
Right.
New York is like punch, 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 punch for like a million jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it doesn't quite feel as tiring because it's like someone starts, then you're looking at the rebuttal and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see it kind of all laid out in this show.
I agree. Great job, Tokyo. Love the battle. Love what you guys are doing. Excited to get over there. Congratulations on a super successful first event. We will try our best to make the second one just as good, maybe better. Who knows? Fingers crossed. Let's end the show by taking a look at the standings. We'll start with America because nothing really changed. The only American city featured was Denver. They were in 6th place. They remain in 6th place. But we have sort of like a logjam at the top there. Austin, the Bay Area, Chicago, all tied for first with 11 points. New York in 4th with 10, and then LA sort of bringing up the rear on this graphic. A couple still ahead of Denver, but in 5th place. I know you have thoughts on this. Go ahead, take it away.
Thoughts.
What do you think?
Some of it's my fault. None
of it's her fault.
Well, no, okay. So Jam of the Van doesn't count, right?
Correct, yeah.
So I have not battled in Los Angeles then for something that counts in 6 months, but I battled in the Bay multiple times. So, and have been featured from the Bay multiple times. So
you did get them some points. I take that back. Some of it's her fault.
I did get the Bay Area some points. But I think Los Angeles, it's a much older scene. And I think New York, who is also right next to us at the bottom, some of the same challenges of as your scene grows, people cycle in and out.
Yes.
And I think LA is in a period of growth where we have a lot of new battlers that are very excited and want to battle, but they need time to get really, really good. And then we have a lot of people who've been battling for a long time who are like, I'm married with kids now. I can't be out till 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. What am I going to do?
Right.
And so they're maybe not battling as often as they used to. And on top of that, we run like 5 or 6 shows a month.
Yes.
Where you are trying to not staff, but cast, 5 shows a month, and people can only battle so many times because they need time to write in between battles. And I think we're at the point where we're running low on the people who used to be the guaranteed winning battle because they only have so much time and energy, and the new people are still catching up.
And this is something I talked to Doug Fager about. I think we're a quarter of the way into the season. We got to kind of hang with it. And, when you get to the 3-quarter mark, if we are within striking distance of a playoff spot, that's when
That's
we
when I
gotta-
get phone calls. Okay?
Yeah. That's when we gotta get in there and make it happen. But it's an interesting thing. This partnership with Jam in the Van has been great. We're getting a lot of views on the videos online, and we've sort of prioritized. And frankly, a lot of battlers would rather go do that. You got a 5-camera shoot. It's a partnership with a company that's growing, and the numbers are there. So yeah, there's not been as much sort of interest in the belly room, and everybody else is kind of trying to figure it out. So hopefully it gets there. This week I'm gonna back off of dunking on LA a little bit and just say that the entire U.S. scene, the international scene right now is hungrier to me. When we did this show last year and we had to do 5 battles a week and we had 7 cities, I had to hunt people down. I had to send emails and texts and Instagram messages. Hey, send me a battle, send me a battle, send me a battle. Now, 6 international cities, everybody sent me a battle. And they were good. I would have loved to have gotten London on. London has been, maybe our most consistent performer. They came up a little bit short this week, I felt like, compared to what we had. Toronto's always sending me everything. I'm not going to chase Austin or the Bay or Chicago or anybody like that. You got to kind of send me the stuff. So I know the issue in our scene, but these other scenes, somebody's going to step up. Somebody is going to win this thing. And a quarter of the way into the season, I have no idea. I'm a gambling man, and I would not feel comfortable putting money on any of these cities right now.
I mean, here's the thing. I would say don't write the Bay Area off because they've got a lot of young, hungry talent.
I would never.
And they run multiple shows. I will say their Sacramento show, the crowd is hotter. Because I have done both now. And judged in Sacramento.
So you were at the Sacramento show. That was about a week and a half ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
I heard nothing but great things about it. Got to see some footage.
It was a wild night. Yeah, I'm sure they're trying to conveniently cut around some things. I
heard some things, yeah.
Yeah. But that, and I haven't been to Austin, but I've only heard good things.
Yep.
Chicago, every video I see from Chicago is amazing.
Yep.
So I feel like any one of those cities could take it. And
sure.
I think maybe Los Angeles is a building year, or maybe we're just quiet and we sneak in at the end. Who knows?
This is the rebuilding. This is the Lakers when they had Kobe and Smush Parker.
Yeah.
And they're like, we got to figure this. Shaq's gone. We got to figure out the next thing.
What do you do? We lost our Shaq.
Yeah, exactly. And our Pau Gasol and all of the above. Let's look at the international standings real quick. London has spent the entire season atop the international leaderboard. They've been consistently every week, have a number 2, number 3, number 4. They had a number 1 at one point, just stacking points. And then Australia comes out of nowhere 3 weeks. Number 1, number 2.
Great battles.
14 points. They move into a tie with London for the lead. Now, there are 2 playoff spots to go around in both divisions. Australia and London right now would hold those. But you also have Barcelona tied for 3rd with 10 points. Scotland.
My money is on Scotland, honestly.
You loved what we saw
I loved what we got. I like Scotland in general. As a people, I find them very fun.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like based on what we saw today, just pure quality wise, if they ran it enough and if they got enough videos in, I think they could be contenders.
And then Tokyo jumping into the standings after not running an event up until 2 weeks ago. They come in with 2 strong battles. They get 9 points. They jump ahead of Toronto, who's bringing up the rear right now. I've loved 99% of what I've seen from our international people, and I just feel like they're hungrier and they want it a little bit more right now. And the results have been really impressive.
I'm excited to see what people do.
So putting you on the spot right now,
sure.
Give me a prediction. 2 American cities. When we hit November 1st and the season ends, who are the 4 playoff teams?
Oh, that is tricky. I think you probably see Austin from America just because they are running it often. They are sending videos in. They are working at multiple clubs, or at least were.
Mm-hmm. Still are.
Yep. Still are.
They're all over.
I think LA has a long shot, but we would have to turn in basically nothing but gold for the rest of the season. More likely, I think Chicago's got a good shot.
Yep.
They've got some great battles. They've got Leah Kajanian out there
Yep.
killing it, and a bunch of other people. I think Bay Area, if they get their videos in, they've got some great battles going on.
That's what I hear.
And hey, I'm from the Bay.
I know
so
you are.
I'm rooting for them.
I know you are.
But I think it'll probably be Austin, Chicago.
Austin, Chicago, international.
Yeah.
Who you got?
International, I think London, because London is consistent. They've been doing it the longest.
Yep.
And then I think probably Australia, unless Scotland really kicks it into gear. But if they do, Man, London versus Scotland.
Your heart is saying Scotland.
My heart is saying
Your head
Scotland.
is saying Australia.
My head is saying Australia.
Got it.
Or long shot Tokyo. Because, Tokyo does the same thing that Los Angeles does and just turns in gold for the rest of the season. Tokyo could be up there if what we saw today is any indication.
Okay. I love it. I need a little more before I start putting any money on any. As the commissioner, I probably shouldn't.
Sure, you probably shouldn't bet on this.
But great week, great battles. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Paige Wesley, thank you for doing this. You have anything you have to plug or anything like that?
Just cult podcast, Horror Virgin, Romancing the Pod.
You're the first co-host I've ever asked that because, with Digits and Doug Fager, I'm like, no. No. Digits will be selling fentanyl in an alley, and Doug will give you an Uber ride if you need it.
Digits is a fun Instagram follow.
Oh, he's the best. Follow,
Follow
at Los Digits. And I don't think he actually sells fentanyl. But definitely Paige, international podcast superstar. So it was an honor to have her on. Thanks to you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.